Can you hear me? Well. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. It's a bit early to talk about wine, but we're in Paris after all, so I guess we can talk about wine at any time. It's about real-world assets, as opposed to a lot of things you hear during this conference. Wine is more than 5,000 years old, so how can wine embrace blockchain and NFTs, since it is such a stretch between wine and NFTs? So I'm going to explain what WineChain does, but why the case is so compelling between real-world physical assets and digital assets. So we created WineChain not because you have a hype of NFTs. A lot of people have done that, actually, like simply putting together in their brain, like, oh, you need to go against counterfeits in wine and things like that. We actually are coming from the wine industry and from tech, and we have created it to solve the problems of the fine wine industry. There are many problems. For wine collectors, for instance, there's authenticity, counterfeit, there's access to the best vineyards, to the allocations of the best wines. And another thing which is really hard for wine collectors or investors alike is liquidity. Once you have a lot of wine in your wine cellar, it's not so easy to sell it without losing 20 or 30% of the value to a merchant. For wineries, the top wineries are in a new world today where they have become luxury brands and where the value of top wines often go up to $300,000, $3,000 a piece. The problem is, because of wine distribution, they only get about 20–25% of the final price. So that's first problem for wineries, is how can they maximize actually their own creations? Think of top wineries and top winemakers as artists in a world of Web3, convert that the way you want. The other thing is, as you've seen a lot on the panels probably here, luxury brands are doing NFTs because they want to talk with their customers. They want to be in a relationship, they want to build loyalty programs around it, and so forth. For winery brands, it's worse than that. They don't even know their customers. They don't know who's the end drinker, and most of the time. And if you take most of the French wineries, in particular, I mean, we're in France, so we can focus a bit on that. 60% of the top wineries are French in the world, the top 1,000, let's say. 90% of the drinkers are outside of France today, and they don't even know, who that is. And the market is probably ready for a change with innovation. As I said, my opening statement, it's a little bit very far away from NFT and blockchain. Think of a winemaker in his field when you start to talk about blockchain to him, like, when they open their emails only like every 3 days or something. It's a real big stretch. On the other hand, it's an industry which was very heavily regulated. Alcohol is very heavily regulated in the world. This is why you don't have such a thing as a marketplace where you can buy and sell wine so easily between people. And there's a lot of middlemen. And we thought, at least when we started this, that it's the perfect timing to finally a disruption where you get rid of most of the problems of the market. So we have created a marketplace. It's a double marketplace. It's a direct-to-consumer marketplace where the wineries sell the wine directly to you without any middlemen. And at the same time, it's a C2C marketplace in the sense that you can resell that wine. And the way it works, it's quite simple, is we create a digital twin, an NFT, we call it a wine NFT, for every release, every case. So if you have a winery releasing, for instance, 100 cases of top Chambertin Burgundy wine, we mint 100 NFTs, which are sold straight from the winery wallet to the customer wallet. And the trick of all that is that it's stored in our facility in Burgundy. And so since the wine doesn't move, the NFT can be traded without the wine moving. And this is why it's so useful, because you basically solve all the problems I mentioned before. How does it work? It's basically you buy the NFT, you buy the wine NFT, and you have 3 choices, right? You either hold it, so for a long time as a collector or as an investor, and you see later what's gonna go with that. You can trade it on the platform, so very easily. So think of that's like one thing which is hard to do if you have a wine collection at home. Or you can burn and ship. So you burn your NFT, you still, I mean, you have the ownership of the wine, right? So that's very important because there's a lot of schemes with funds or people like intermediaries still. With our system, you are fully like in a Web3 logic. You have the wine title, the NFT in your wallet, and it's your ownership. The way it's in a Web3 play even more is that in the smart contracts are embedded royalties defined by the wineries upfront. So usually this is about 15% on the profit only. So basically you are capable of adding liquidity, you are capable of selling your wine to the world in a much better condition. And at the same time, the winery takes a little cut of that. So this is very, think of the wineries as creators and therefore get a little bit of the growing value of the wine. So how do you do that? So you basically, it's a little bit like a seller in the cloud, which comes with a lot of other perks, such as imagine you don't know yet where you're going to drink your wine later on in 10 years, or you want to plan, whatever, the next birthday of your kids or things like that. It's like, it's your seller in the cloud, so you don't have all the hassle about moving the wine. And before anything else, you don't lose the value of the wine if it gets shipped. So you can do it yourself on the platform. I mean, there's a lot of advice, of course, or you can use our concierge service if you don't know anything about wine or you just want to be helped. And there's different levels of concierge services here. So I'm not going to expand too much in investing in wine because some collectors don't really care about investing. That's just for their own consumption. Others use our platform just to buy wine and to get access. But a lot of people in the NFT world and the crypto world in general are there to invest. And it's obviously a perfect opportunity for them to invest. So wine as an asset has done very well in the past 3 decades. It has literally bet the S&P 500 most of the time. The problem is access and liquidity, right? And we provide both. So in a certain sense, we open the market much broader and much clearer to invest in wine while you really know much more what you're doing. Everybody who is like investing in wine will tell you the same thing. If that's a certain point, they want to sell part of their cellar 10 years later. There's the market value, but it's not what they get once they want to sell part of their winery collection, because they always need intermediaries, such as merchants and other auction houses, to actually sell the wine. So, which comes down to our value proposition for the end consumer and the NFT holder. So, direct access to top wineries seems something like trivia. It's not. It's the wine market is like a scarce market. Like there's only a number of bottles released every year, particularly for the top bottles. And think of it's actually getting worse. This is why also the price goes up so much. So demand and offer, right? So there's not more production of top wines because it's a combination of places, terroir, as we name it, and artistry of the winemaker. And it takes a long time to make a top wine, a lot of expertise, etc. And the production with global warming is actually more or less going down of the very top, while demand is going up. And I don't see any reasons why this will continue. So access is key and is more and more important. The second thing is through the fact that we store the wines and it's only sourced by the winery, you don't lose the authenticity. You have the proof through the ledger that the wine comes in the first place by the winery, even if it's traded multiple times, because you can track exactly what has happened to the trade. Therefore, you can prove that this wine is authentic and this wine has been stored in perfect condition, so you don't lose the value. Think of if you start to buy fine wine, a case of $1,000, you ship it to your home, you almost instantly lose part of the value because of that. And in our case, of course, you don't. And same last thing, as I mentioned a bit before, tradability and liquidity is key. And we're creating literally the first secondary market for fine wine globally, worldwide. So we have, it's a value proposition which many have put out in the market. You could find a lot of traders of wine. I mean, there's many ways to buy wine, but it's a very hard market to enter, really. So we have unique advantages in the fact that we have worked a lot with wineries. We really come from the world of wineries. We understand them. We're backed by them. And we have convinced more than 120 of the top 500 wineries to join us. We have also, to be able to do that, actually, this is where in real world is again so important, you need logistics. Because if you own wine and suddenly you say, yeah, I have the ownership, but I can't get shipped, how is it works, right? And logistics in wine is very complex because of regulations and anywhere. And we ship now in more than 50 countries. So, of course, you're at NFT Paris, so crypto seems trivia. There's not so many websites of wine services where you can buy with crypto, right? And you can do that on WineChain. And fiat and crypto transactions worldwide to buy fine wine is something really hard to do because you have regulations of alcohol and regulations of crypto. And so think of a company like us, when you go to the whatever payment provider or bank and you want to start to work, it uses about 9 months to KYC to be accepted, right? Because it's very regulated industries. And like I said, we are really literally the first Web3 marketplace where you trade fine wines directly from one collector to the next through us. So it's a bit of the producers. It's always nice to see nice bottles because I didn't show so many, so at least you get all of them at once. I invite you to go to our website. We have a little promo code for today, which is, so it's 30% for one case. Obviously, you're not going to get that so often. And I would, if you use it today, it's NFT Paris 30. And I mean, there are some cases or bottles which are $200 entry point. So you don't have to spend $10,000. Don't worry. But yeah, if you want to build your cellar, of course, feel free to reach out to me, and we can link you to the concierge service and everything else. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm happy to take some questions. Over there, I don't know if this is the mic. Here you go.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm working on a project that's kind of similar, and I wanted to ask, how did you manage to convince traditional producers in winery to learn blockchain or get into it? And wasn't that a huge barrier for you? I know you said you come from that industry already, so that probably helped a lot, but still, I'm working in a similar idea, not totally same, but I'm really wondering what kind of challenges you faced and how you overcame them.
It's super hard. It's very hard. It's a long-term process. I would tell you, before most of the top winemakers are converted to the knowledge and the idea of what we're doing, it's going to take 10 years. So,
10 years?
Simply put, yeah, I believe so. Okay. So we started a little bit more than 2 years ago. The reason why we have accelerated the process pretty much is because my co-founders and a lot of our backers are top winemakers, right? So I'm not going to name drop now. Everyone, you can go on the website and see it for yourself. And they own some of the biggest brands in France and a little bit elsewhere. So that helps, obviously, to get in, right? But that doesn't necessarily help to educate with blockchain. So educating with blockchain requires to be very patient and to have a great team which understands winemakers and their problems, and then explains to them one by one. And I would say as a last response to you that in any innovative market, for instance, in '99, I was creating an online travel portal for ski vacations, so I had the same hurdles with hotels in the Alps, which didn't want to hear about the internet. They said, I'm going to do the internet myself. Well, now everybody books online, right? So anyway, so you have always like a little bit of 3 categories of people, right? Whatever the industry is, whatever you're cracking, whatever you're plugging innovation on it. And, well, you go after the first tier, which is you want to embrace innovation. Actually, winemakers work with technology a lot. They use drones, they use like a lot of data to measure, hygrometry and this and that. So they're not against technology at all. It's just a matter of, the time allocation of something which is, not necessarily their immediate need. Particularly top winemakers make already a ton of money. So even if our value proposition is great for that, they can have a bigger share. It's not urgent for them. So it takes time. And we understand them at least. So we are doing our job here. It's a hard job. It's going to take a long time, but so far, so good. I mean, you're not going to find any website with more than 100 wineries which are selling through NFTs other than WineChain. So I'm pretty proud of that, at least.
Thanks so much.
So business model is very simple. It's a marketplace, transaction-based. We invoice commission for the primary sales for every winery who is releasing new drops and products. And we take a small cut as well of 10% of the profits of the secondary trades on the marketplace. So, and that's it. We're not charging any SaaS model to wineries or fees, entrance fees, etc. We might launch a token at a certain point, which will give you advantages. So, no announcement yet, but that might come. But it's not necessarily to be it's not going to be the business model or to raise money. It's more going to be to enhance the loyalty program somehow. One more.
Thank you. How do you preserve the integrity between the physical bottle and the on-chain data?
Yeah, very good question. So in the first step, when we mint, it's the winery. It's only product from the winery and the winery's decision, okay? So it corresponds to a physical bottle, a physical good, which is still at the winery. The bottle is the NFT. In the NFT is embedded a real estate. Real estate means is when the wine is at disposal. When it's at disposal and it has been sold, it goes to our facility. So there is, of course, it's very tracked. It goes just from the winery to our facility. Then it doesn't move anymore. And so the integrity, if you want, comes from that. So there's a little bit of trust into WineChain as a brand, if you will. But this is as far as we can get at this point. Of course, you could talk about NFC, put QR codes and all sorts of stuff, which is pretty useless at this point. It is useful if once the wine ships, right? And we're, of course, investigating different solutions, but there's no global standard today for NFC technologies. And as for the ledger, I mean, everything is registered. We're on Polygon. I mean, you can track. I mean, if the wine was traded 10 times on the platform, you know who trades it. Anyway, then the wine didn't move. It corresponds to a case. And so, yeah, it has a number. There's no, I mean, everybody can verify it, right? This is, of course, the principle of blockchain.
Okay, thank you.
So, your solution, you focus on normally, I think, on your PPTs for the top winery in the world. Do you think your solution is also applicable for some middle-class winery? Like in France, we have many RCLP wineries, very good also. But
yeah, excellent question.
Good enough to be the top.
Yeah, excellent question. So why only the top, right? The wine market is huge. Actually, a lot of people don't know it's $400 billion worldwide, and it's still growing. And it's like, it's bigger than personal computers, bigger than gaming. Well, maybe not that long, but it's really big. So the top 2%, which corresponds to the top 10% in value, 40 billion a year, is the only immediately addressable market because of the logistics model behind. When you ship case by case and you store case by case, if they don't have a minimum value, the model doesn't make too much sense. You rather go through the regular routes, the regular like big containers, big distribution models, big retail, etc. So there's a price point where basically it makes sense or it doesn't. The other reason is that we think of wine and NFTs probably as art which goes up. Because wine, I mean, increases in value, but also quality in most cases over time, and that is fairly not so true for 20 euro bottles most of the time. So there's all these factors, and there is scarcity as well. I mean, there's all the logic of owning a collection of something what is rare. I mean, today you can build like probably so some people are starting to build like amazing collections they would never have been able to build otherwise. If you start to go mainstream wines, that doesn't make too much sense anymore, in my opinion. But initially, it's an economical issue. There's one more question, and I think I don't want to be over time too much, but. Is there any time limitation how long you keep in the storage? No, theoretically not. Storing fine wine is not very expensive because just for the reasons I was answering before, the price value, basically storing a $1,000 case is, it's €10 a year. So it's like 1% maybe, including insurance and all that. And to keeping the perfect value, that actually makes sense. No, there's no, I mean, we offer the first year, and this is 1 year after the release, so you usually don't have to worry for at least 18 months or 24 months, so we sponsor a little bit storage. And after that, well, I mean, if you have a huge collection, you're gonna have a little bit storage cost, but you will do arbitrage, right? You will say, hey, this one increased a lot, I might offload it on the marketplace. This one now is ready to drink, I want to drink it, I'm shipping it, and others you hold. So, storage, there's no real limit. I see ourselves in 10 years actually storing like, $1 billion of wine, maybe more, and in different bunkers, of course, with total security and cameras and everything else. But today it's stored by, sometimes by people, sometimes by businesses, sometimes by professional logistics platform, but most of the wine is stored by merchants and B2B people who are making money out of that. So we are re-putting that money for the customers and the wineries, right? So in that case, it's a little bit different. Well, I was a little bit beyond your question, sorry. Maybe a last question or any? I think I'm done here. Thank you very much.